Jake Morrison stood in the center of the council chamber, trying not to show how nervous he felt. The room was massive, filled with creatures from dozens of different worlds. Some looked like giant insects, others glowed with their own light, and a few were just clouds of gas held together by force fields. All of them were staring at him. The tall mantis-like alien leaned forward. Its voice came through the translation device in Jake's ear. "You broke our most important law. You entered a forbidden zone. You made contact with Kalthari juveniles. Explain yourself." Jake took a deep breath. "We picked up a distress signal. We thought it was coming from an abandoned research station. When we got there, the whole place was falling apart. The reactor was going to explode. We had to act fast." Another alien, this one made of light trapped in a crystal, spoke next. "And when you found the creatures, why did you not retreat? Why did you not call for help?" "There wasn't time," Jake said. "Those cubs were trapped. They would have died in the explosion. I couldn't just leave them." A wave of shocked sounds filled the chamber. The fungus-like alien released a cloud of spores. "You approached them willingly? Kalthari are born killers. Even the young ones can bite through steel. They have poison in their claws. Trained teams use robots to handle them from a distance." "I know what the files say," Jake replied, "but they were just scared kids." He remembered crawling through the broken station following the sound of crying. He had found them in a collapsed room, 3 small creatures huddled together. They were about the size of wolves covered in black scales. Each one had 6 eyes on a triangular head. When they looked at him, every instinct told him to run. But he didn't run. Instead, he got down on his knees and made himself smaller. He spoke softly, the way his grandmother had taught him to talk to scared animals back home in Montana. "It's okay. I'm here to help." The mantis alien's mouth parts clicked rapidly. "What you describe is impossible. Kalthari young do not respond to kindness. They only understand hunting and killing. We have centuries of research that proves this." "Maybe your research is wrong," Jake said. The room erupted in angry noises. The old alien with purple tentacles raised several arms to call for quiet. "The human makes a point that troubles us greatly. Not because we doubt our science, but because of what happened next." A video appeared in the air above the chamber. The quality was poor, damaged by radiation, but it was clear enough. It showed Jake kneeling in the debris. It showed the 3 cubs walking toward him. Not attacking, just curious. "They should have killed you instantly," the mantis alien said, its voice quieter now. "Instead, they followed you. They obeyed your hand signals. When our security teams arrived, they stood between you and the armed guards." "They were protecting me," Jake said simply. "Kalthari do not protect," the crystal being insisted. "They hunt, they feed, they dominate. This is what they are." Jake met its gaze. "Then maybe you've been wrong about them all along." The old alien with tentacles spoke again. "This is not simply about breaking rules. If the human's connection with these juveniles is real, it changes everything we know about the Kalthari species. It could mean we have been treating them incorrectly for thousands of years. Or it could be a fluke," the fungus alien said. "A random accident caused by stress or injury. We cannot change our entire approach to the most dangerous species in space because of one incident. Which is why we must study this further," the old alien continued. "Commander Morrison, you and the juveniles will be taken to our research station. There we will determine the nature of this bond you claim to have formed." Jake's jaw tightened. "They're not lab specimens. They're living beings." "They are Kalthari," the mantis alien said coldly. "Until we understand what has happened, you and they are a potential threat to everyone in this galaxy." The vote happened quickly. Every alien agreed. Jake would stay in council custody, along with the 3 Kalthari cubs, while scientists tried to figure out what was going on. As guards led him out of the chamber, Jake saw a screen showing where the cubs were being kept. They were pacing back and forth, their heads turning as if looking for something. Looking for him. He had gone into that station to save lives. That's why he joined the space program in the first place. He never expected to cause an interstellar incident. He certainly never expected to be at the center of a debate that could change galactic politics. But as he watched those 3 young predators on the screen, remembering how they had pressed against him in the dark, how they had trusted him when they had no reason to, Jake knew something for certain. He would protect them, just as they had protected him, even if the whole galaxy thought he was crazy. The research station orbited a dead moon at the edge of council space. It was built to study dangerous creatures, with force fields strong enough to hold almost anything. Jake's room was comfortable but clearly designed as a cell. The door was unlocked, but armed guards stood at every corner. Dr. Lisa Chen was the scientist assigned to his case. She was small with sharp eyes and seemed genuinely curious rather than hostile. She shook his hand firmly when they met. "I know this is difficult," she said, sitting across from him. "But try to understand the Council's position. The Kalthari have been considered an impossible problem for 300 years. If you found some way to communicate with them, it could save countless lives." Jake stared through the clear wall at the cubs. They were in a bigger space now, with fake rocks and controlled environment. But they weren't moving around. They were lying down with their heads on their paws, all 18 eyes half closed. They looked depressed. "They think I abandoned them," Jake said quietly. Lisa looked at them thoughtfully. Kalthari don't form emotional bonds outside their immediate family. That's one reason they're so dangerous. They can't be tamed or reasoned with. "You keep telling me what they can't do," Jake replied. "But I'm watching 3 cubs who haven't eaten in 2 days because they miss someone. Doesn't that tell you something?" "It tells me we need more information." Lisa pulled up glowing charts in the air. "I've been looking at the scans we took when they arrived. Their brain chemistry is fascinating. Kalthari have 3 separate brain centers, one for instinct, one for thinking, and one for awareness of their surroundings." "And?" Jake prompted. "And all 3 cubs show activity in brain regions we've never seen active in Kalthari before. There's a section we thought was useless, left over from evolution, but in these 3 it's lighting up brightly." Jake turned to look at her. "What does that part do?" Lisa met his eyes. "In most species, that kind of brain structure is linked to social bonding and understanding emotions. But in Kalthari, it should be dormant. They're not social creatures. They're solitary hunters." "Then maybe your models are wrong," Jake said. "Maybe you've been studying adult Kalthari who were isolated and traumatized, and you assume that's just how they naturally are." Lisa was quiet for a long moment. "That's a dangerous idea. If you're right, it means the Council's entire approach has been not just wrong, but harmful. It means we've been treating a thinking species as monsters when they could have been so much more. It also means," Jake added, "that keeping their home planet under quarantine might be a terrible mistake." Before Lisa could respond, alarms began blaring through the station. Red lights flashed in the corridors and guards raised their weapons. On the monitors, Jake could see chaos breaking out in different parts of the facility. "What's happening?" he demanded. Lisa was already pulling up security feeds, her face going pale. "It's the adult Kalthari, the ones we've kept in long-term containment. They're breaking out of their cells." Jake felt ice in his veins. "How many adults are here?" 7. Lisa's fingers flew over the controls. "They've been sedated for years, kept in sleep for research. But something triggered them. They're all waking up at once." On the screens, Jake saw massive shapes moving through the station corridors. Each one was easily 3 times the size of the cubs. Their scales were darker, their movements smooth and deadly. They tore through security barriers like paper, their claws leaving deep cuts in reinforced walls. And they were all moving in the same direction, toward where the cubs were being kept. "They're coming for the juveniles," Lisa breathed. "But that's impossible. Adult Kalthari don't protect young that aren't their own. They're more likely to kill them." Jake was already moving toward the door. "Let me go to them." "To the cubs?" "Jake, if the adults get in there, you'll be killed. If I don't go, the cubs will die. You said it yourself. Adult Kalthari kill juveniles they don't know." He grabbed her shoulders. "But maybe if I'm with the cubs, the adults will see something different. Maybe they'll see family." "You're asking me to bet your life on a guess," Lisa said. "I'm asking you to trust that I know what I'm doing." The station shook as another breach echoed through the structure. Lisa looked at the monitors at the cubs who were now standing and calling out with high-pitched cries. Then she looked at Jake. "If you die, the Council will execute me for allowing it," she said. "Then I better not die." Lisa made her choice. She overrode the containment systems and opened the door to the cubs area. Jake didn't hesitate. He ran through the opening and immediately the 3 cubs were around him, their cries changing to sounds of relief. He knelt among them, running his hands over their scaled heads, feeling the warmth of their bodies pressing against him. "Hey, it's okay. I'm here. I'm not leaving." The cubs settled down but stayed alert, their heads turned toward the corridor where the sounds of destruction grew louder. They positioned themselves around Jake in a protective circle, their bodies tense and ready. Through the containment barrier, Jake could see Lisa watching with a mixture of terror and fascination. The guards had fallen back, unwilling to enter the same space as Kalthari, even young ones. Then the first adult arrived. It came around the corner like a nightmare made real. It was easily twice the size of an earth grizzly bear, its black scales reflecting the emergency lights. Its 6 eyes locked onto the scene before it. 3 cubs surrounding a human. The adult's jaws open, showing rows of crystal-like teeth. It took a step forward. The cubs didn't attack or run. Instead, they made a sound Jake had never heard before, a deep rumbling that seemed to vibrate through his bones. The adult stopped. Its head tilted, eyes narrowing. 2 more adults appeared, one on each side of the first. Then another. Within moments, all 7 of the station's adult Kalthari were there, their massive forms filling the corridor beyond the barrier. Jake slowly stood up, keeping his movements calm and smooth. The cubs stayed pressed against him, still making that strange rumbling sound. "Easy," Jake said softly, not sure if he was talking to the cubs, the adults, or himself. "Nobody needs to die here." The largest of the adults, a scarred creature covered in marks from old fights, stepped forward. It was close enough now that Jake could see the patterns of wounds on its body, the way its muscles moved under its scales. This was a creature that had spent years in captivity, treated as nothing more than a dangerous animal. It should have been the most dangerous Kalthari in the station. Instead, it lowered its head, pressing its nose against the barrier, and made a sound that was almost gentle. One of the cubs, the smallest one, chirped in response. Lisa's voice came through the speakers, shaking. "Jake, the brain scans. All of them. Adults and juveniles. That dormant region we talked about. It's active. They're all communicating at a level we've never detected before." Jake didn't take his eyes off the adults. "What are they saying?" "I don't know. But whatever it is, it's complex. It's sophisticated. Jake, these aren't mindless predators. They're intelligent. They're a civilization we've been torturing for 300 years because we were too afraid to listen." The largest adult pressed harder against the barrier, testing it, trying to find a way through. Not to attack. To reach the cubs. "To reach him, Lisa," Jake said carefully. "Lower the barrier. That's suicide. No, it's trust. Lower it." For a moment, he thought she wouldn't do it. Then the barrier shimmered and disappeared, leaving nothing between Jake and 7 of the most dangerous predators in known space. The adults moved forward as one. Jake closed his eyes, ready for whatever came next. He felt warm breath on his face, weight pressing against his sides. The cubs' rumbling grew louder, and new voices joined them, deeper and stronger. Jake opened his eyes to find himself surrounded by Kalthari, young and old, their scales touching his skin, their eyes watching him with something that looked like wonder. "Hello," he said quietly. "I'm sorry for what was done to you. I'm sorry we didn't understand." The largest adult made a sound, and the translation systems finally rendered it into words. "Pack friend, bright mind, teacher of new ways." Jake felt tears on his cheeks. "Yeah, I guess I am." Outside the containment area, Lisa was already on the communication systems, broadcasting to the council, sharing the brain scans and the translations, recording the moment when humanity's relationship with the Kalthari changed forever. The moment when the galaxy realized that its most feared predators had been calling for help all along, and no one had listened, until now. The emergency council session was called within hours. Every representative came in person this time, their ships crowding the space around the station. The amphitheater was packed with observers from across the galaxy, all wanting to see what would happen. Jake stood in the center of the chamber again, but this time he wasn't alone. The 3 cubs were with him, their presence making several delegates shift nervously. Behind them, through the massive windows, Earth's military ships maintained a defensive position. Humanity had made it clear that harming their representative or the Kalthari under his protection would have consequences. The mantis alien had been replaced by a younger one with a different colored shell. It approached the speaking platform carefully. "Commander Morrison," the new alien said, "the Council owes you and your species an apology. Our actions regarding the Kalthari were based on incomplete information and fundamental misunderstandings of their behavior." Jake nodded, but didn't smile. "Apologies are a start, but what matters now is what you do next." Dr. Chen stepped forward, her research data floating in displays around the chamber. The brain scans we've done over the past 3 weeks have changed everything we thought we knew about Kalthari biology. What we thought was a species of solitary predators is actually a highly social species with complex emotional bonds. The reason they seemed aggressive was because we were studying them in extreme psychological distress, the crystal being pulsed with a deep blue color that meant shame. Our containment methods involved isolation, sedation, and sensory deprivation. We thought these were humane given their supposedly solitary nature. Methods that would drive any social species insane, Lisa said bluntly. Imagine taking a human child, locking them alone in a cell for years, then concluding that humans are naturally violent. That's what we did to the Kalthari. One of the cubs pressed against Jake's leg. He rested his hand on its head, feeling the warm scales. The simple gesture sent ripples of reaction through the chamber. The old alien with tentacles raised several arms. Dr. Chen, you stated that the Kalthari have a previously unknown form of communication. Please explain. Lisa changed the displays, showing brain patterns and chemical readings. Kalthari communicate primarily through subsonic vibrations and scent chemicals. It's incredibly sophisticated, capable of conveying complex ideas. We couldn't detect it because we were looking for sounds or visual signals. We were literally deaf to their language. The fungus alien released a cloud of spores, but the human heard them. How is this possible if their communication is beyond human hearing range? Jake spoke up. I didn't hear them the way you mean, but I grew up on a ranch. I learned to read animal behavior, to understand what they were saying through body language. When I met the cubs, I didn't try to talk to them in my language. I tried to understand theirs, and they responded, the old alien said. The question is why? What makes humans different? A new voice joined the conversation. Admiral Pete Collins of Earth's Space Fleet appeared as a hologram, his weathered face serious. With respect, Council, you're asking the wrong question. It's not about what makes humans special. It's about what made everyone else blind to the obvious. The mantis alien's mouth parts clicked. Explain, Admiral. Earth is a dangerous world by galactic standards, Collins said. High gravity, violent weather, everything trying to eat everything else. Humans evolved alongside predators. We understand them because we were both prey and predator. When Jake looked at those cubs, he didn't see monsters. He saw scared kids because that's what they were. Lisa nodded. The Admiral is right. Most council species evolved on peaceful worlds. You have predators, but nothing like Earth's variety of dangerous animals. Humans have an instinctive understanding of predator behavior that most species lack. This is interesting, the mantis alien said. But it doesn't solve the main problem. What do we do about the Kalthari homeworld? The quarantine has been in place for 300 years. We have an entire planet of beings we've been treating as prisoners. Jake felt anger rising. You have an entire planet of people you've been imprisoning. Let's be honest about what it is. The chamber fell silent. The old alien's tentacles moved in patterns that showed discomfort. Commander Morrison, you must understand what you're suggesting. The Kalthari homeworld has billions of inhabitants. If we were wrong about their nature, if they've been suffering under our quarantine, then the Council is responsible for one of the greatest crimes in galactic history. I know, Jake said, but hiding from the truth won't make it go away. The smallest cub chirped and the translation systems rendered it as a question about home. The small Kalthari looked up at Jake with those 6 intelligent eyes. Yes, he said softly. We're going to try to take you home. Lisa stepped forward again. The Council asked me to develop a first contact plan. Given what we now know about Kalthari communication, I believe we can start peaceful dialogue with their homeworld, but it will require careful planning and, most importantly, a human mediator. Every eye in the chamber turned to Jake. Absolutely not, Admiral Collins said immediately. Commander Morrison, you've done enough. We're not sending you into a potentially hostile situation with billions of Kalthari. They're not hostile, Jake replied. They're desperate, and they know me now. These 3 have been communicating with their people somehow. I've seen it at the research station. Every Kalthari in the facility responded to what happened with the cubs. It's like they have a shared consciousness. Which makes it even more dangerous, the mantis alien said. If the Kalthari on their homeworld see you as a threat, they could all turn against you at once. They won't, Jake interrupted. Because I'm going to bring them what they've been waiting for. Hope, understanding, and these 3 cubs who can show their people that not all aliens are enemies. The Fungus alien spores translated as concern. This could be a disaster. If something goes wrong, if the Kalthari respond with violence, it could justify all of the Council's fears. Or, Jake said, it could be the first step toward making things right. Look, I'm not a diplomat. I'm not a scientist. I'm just someone who was in the right place at the right time. But I know this. Those cubs trusted me when they had no reason to. The adults at the research station chose peace when they could have chosen violence. Maybe it's time the Council showed the same kind of courage. The debate went on for hours. Species argued with species, groups formed and dissolved. And through it all, Jake stood with the three cubs, a silent reminder of what was at stake. Finally, as the station's artificial day was ending, the old alien called for a vote. The measure passed by a narrow margin. Jake Morrison, along with a carefully selected team, would travel to the Kalthari homeworld. They would attempt to establish communication, to explain what had happened, and to begin the long process of making amends. As the session ended, Lisa approached Jake, her expression both proud and worried. You know this could go horribly wrong. Yeah, Jake agreed. But it could also go incredibly right. And these kids deserve that chance. The cubs pressed against him, their rumbling communication vibrating through his bones. Through the translation systems, he heard fragments about being brave, going home, and hope for a new future. We're going to need a bigger ship, Admiral Collins said, appearing beside them. Because I'll be damned if I let you do this without proper support. Jake smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. The old alien approached, her ancient eyes studying Jake. You have changed the course of galactic history today, Commander. I hope you are prepared for what comes next. I'm not, Jake admitted, but I don't think anyone could be. We'll figure it out as we go. A very human approach, the old alien observed. It's the only one I know. The ship was called the Endeavor. It was Earth's newest diplomatic vessel, designed for exactly this kind of mission, with meeting rooms, translation equipment, and enough weapons to make any attacker think twice. The Council contributed their best language experts, medical staff, and cultural specialists. The crew numbered 200, representing 15 species. All volunteers. Jake's quarters were next to a specially designed habitat for the cubs, who had grown significantly in the 3 months of preparation. They were nearly teenagers now, their scales darkening toward the deep black of adults, their movements more confident. But they still followed Jake everywhere, still pressed against him when nervous, still rumbled their strange communication when he entered a room. Lisa had started calling them the Pack, and the name stuck. The curious one Jake called Scout was always investigating new areas of the ship. The largest one, Hunter, was protective and often positioned itself between Jake and anyone it considered potentially threatening. And the smallest Shadow was the most emotionally aware, seeming to sense Jake's moods before he fully recognized them himself. Brain bonding is exceeding all predictions, Lisa reported during one of their daily meetings. The Pack isn't just attached to you, Jake. They've made you part of their social structure. You're not a pet owner or a trainer. You're family. Jake studied the brain scans she showed, displaying the synchronized patterns between his brain activity and the cubs. Is that normal for Kalthari? We don't know what normal is for Kalthari, Lisa admitted. Everything we thought we knew was wrong. But based on watching the Pack and the adults at the research station, I believe Kalthari form bonds that are even stronger than human families. Once you're accepted, you're part of their shared consciousness. They'll defend you to the death. Comforting, Jake said dryly. It should be, because when we arrive at their homeworld, you'll be walking among billions of them. Having the Pack accept you might be the only thing keeping you alive. The journey took 6 weeks at maximum speed. During that time, the crew prepared for every possible situation. The ship's security chief ran training after training, preparing teams for hostility, confusion, or unexpected dangers. But the quiet conversations mattered most. Jake spent hours with the Pack, learning their language not through computers but through practice. He learned the difference between a warning rumble and a greeting, between curiosity and concern. He learned that Kalthari could sense emotions through chemical signatures in sweat and breath, that they could detect fear or confidence with incredible accuracy. They're empaths, he told Lisa one evening. Not mind readers, but close. They read body language and biology at a level humans can't match. Which explains why they responded to you, Lisa said. When you found them in that station, you weren't afraid. You were concerned, protective. They sensed that and responded accordingly. But the Council's researchers, the containment teams, they were all terrified of the Kalthari, radiating fear and aggression. The Kalthari responded to what they perceived as hostility. Lisa shook her head. We created our own monsters. The day they entered the Kalthari system, the entire ship fell silent. The star was yellow, similar to Earth's sun, and the home world was the third planet. It was beautiful, a world of deep forests and wide oceans, mountains that reached toward the sky. From orbit it looked peaceful, but the sensors told a different story. The quarantine field, a network of satellites and automated weapons, surrounded the planet like a cage. Any ship trying to land without Council permission would be destroyed instantly. Admiral Collins stood on the bridge, his expression grim. 300 years. They've been trapped here for 300 years, watching the stars and knowing they can never reach them. The pack was agitated, pacing in their habitat, their rumbling communication urgent. Jake went to them, and Shadow immediately pressed against him, its scales warm and trembling. Home, the translation system said. Pack senses many waiting and calling. I know, Jake said softly. We're going to see them, I promise. The Council diplomat, a crystal being named Bright Path, appeared in the habitat. Commander Morrison, we're receiving signals from the surface. The Kalthari know we're here. Can you understand what they're saying? No. The frequencies are unlike anything in our records. But the pattern suggests complex communication. They're organized down there. Jake stood, the pack rising with him. Then let's talk to them. The first contact message was broadcast on every frequency, using every form of communication the Council had developed. Visual signals, radio waves, mathematical patterns, and finally, based on Lisa's research, subsonic patterns that matched Kalthari communication. For hours, there was no response. Then as the ship completed its third orbit, a message came through. Not in words, but in vibrations that the ship's structure translated into sound. The pack went completely still, their eyes fixed on the speakers. Then as one, they began to respond, their rumbling growing louder, more complex. Jake felt it in his chest, in his bones, the sensation of being part of something vast and ancient. Lisa was frantically recording information. Jake, this is incredible. The pack is using you as a relay. They're broadcasting your brain signature, your biology, everything that makes you who you are to the Kalthari below. They're telling their people that you're safe, that you're family. The response from the planet changed. The hostile edge to the vibrations softened and new patterns emerged. Curiosity, hope, questions. They want to know why we're here. Bright Path translated, its crystal form pulsing with excitement. They want to know if the cage is finally opening. Jake took a deep breath. Tell them yes. Tell them we came to apologize. Tell them we came to learn. And tell them we came to set them free. The translation took time, the message being converted into mathematical and subsonic patterns. But when it was finally broadcast, the response was immediate and overwhelming. From the surface, thousands of voices joined in harmony, the sound resonating through the ship's hull. It was beautiful and terrible, joyful and sad, the collective voice of a species that had been imprisoned for 3 centuries finally being heard. Admiral Collins wiped his eyes. Get me the Council. They need to hear this. The broadcast was sent to every Council station, every allied world, and across the galaxy for the first time, people heard the true voice of the Kalthari, not the snarls of caged predators, but the songs of a civilization that had been crying out for help all along. Jake stood with the pack, their scales touching his skin, their voices adding to the chorus. And he knew that whatever happened next, this moment was worth it. The Kalthari were no longer alone. Neither was he. Admiral, the security chief said from her station, we're detecting movement on the surface. Large groups of Kalthari gathering at specific locations. They're organizing. For an attack? Collins asked sharply. No, sir. The aliens' mouthparts moved in what Jake had learned was their version of a smile. They're preparing a landing zone. They're inviting us down. Jake felt the pack's excitement through their bond, their rumbling taking on a triumphant quality. Scout looked up at him, and through the translation systems he heard words about home being soon, about seeing their people, about joy and hope. Yes, Jake said, kneeling to embrace all 3 of them. We're going home. The Endeavor began its descent, breaking through the quarantine field that was now being shut down. passing through clouds that had hidden the planet from proper observation for 300 years. And below, a world waited, ready to welcome not conquerors or judges, but friends, ready to show the galaxy what the Kalthari truly were. The landing site was a vast clearing surrounded by towering trees that reminded Jake of Earth's redwoods, though their bark shimmered with colors. As the Endeavor settled onto the prepared ground, sensors showed thousands of Kalthari in the surrounding forest, their heat signatures forming a ring around the clearing. But they weren't threatening. They were waiting. Life support confirms the atmosphere is safe for humans, the ship's science officer reported. Temperature is comfortable, no detected diseases. But Commander, the Kalthari numbers are increasing. We're reading over 10,000 individuals in the immediate area. Jake stood at the airlock with the pack, Admiral Collins, Lisa, and a small diplomatic team. Through the window, he could see shapes moving among the trees, massive forms that made the cubs at his side look tiny. Last chance to reconsider, Collins said. We can conduct initial contact with drones. No, Jake replied. They invited us. Hiding behind technology would be an insult. The pack was vibrating with barely contained energy, their rumbling constant now. Shadow pressed against Jake's leg hard enough to make him adjust his stance. They're scared, Lisa observed, checking her scanner. Their body chemistry shows stress. So does mine, Jake admitted. But we're doing this together. The airlock opened and the sounds and scents of an alien world flooded in. The air was sweet, carrying hints of vegetation unlike anything on Earth. The ground beneath Jake's boots was soft, covered in moss that cushioned each step. As one, the pack surged forward, then stopped, looking back at Jake, waiting for him. Together, he said, and stepped out onto Kalthari soil. The effect was immediate. From the forest, hundreds of Kalthari emerged into the clearing. They were magnificent, their black scales catching the sunlight, their movements smooth and powerful. Each one stood easily 8 feet tall at the shoulder, their triangular heads with 6 eyes swiveling to take in every detail of the visitors. The pack called out, their young voices high and urgent. The adult Kalthari responded with deeper sounds, and suddenly Jake was surrounded by a conversation he could feel but not fully understand. The translation system struggled to keep up, showing fragments about joy at return, about the pack being preserved, about the alien friend who brought hope. One massive Kalthari, its scales marked with silver patterns that suggested great age, approached slowly. The pack immediately moved to Jake's side, not defending but as if presenting him. The elder stopped 3 meters away and lowered its head, eyes fixed on Jake with an intensity that made him fight the urge to step back. Then it spoke, and the translation systems rendered it clearly. You are the one called Jake who heard. The pack has shared your essence with all the connected. We know you. Jake swallowed hard. I'm honored. I wish we had come sooner. The cage has made time strange, the elder replied, but you are here now. The pack chose well when they called you family. More Kalthari emerged from the forest, and Jake realized this wasn't just a greeting party. This was a gathering of clans, of family groups from across the region, possibly from across the continent. They had come to witness this moment. Lisa was frantically recording information, her voice shaking with excitement. Jake, the brain activity, it's like they're all linked. Every Kalthari here is sharing information instantly. It's like a biological network. The elder Kalthari tilted its head toward Lisa. The small thinker understands. We are the connected. What one knows, all may know. What one feels, all may feel. Your pack has shared your memories, Jake who heard. We have seen through your eyes. We understand what you did for our cubs when death approached. I did what anyone should do, Jake said. I helped children who needed help. A rumble went through the gathered Kalthari, and the translation systems showed it as laughter mixed with sadness. No, the elder said. You did what your species does. What ours does. What the council species forgot how to do. You saw someone in need and acted with compassion. Admiral Collins stepped forward carefully, his movements slow. Elder, I am Admiral Pete Collins of the Human Fleet. On behalf of Earth and I hope the Galactic Council, I offer our deepest apologies for what was done to your people. The elder's 6 eyes focused on Collins, the one who leads. The pack has shared your essence as well. You are angry at the injustice. You wish to make things right. This is good. But words are not enough for 300 years of imprisonment. I know, Collins said. But we're prepared to offer more than words. The quarantine is being removed. Trade agreements, cultural exchanges, technology sharing, whatever your people need, Earth will provide, and will make sure the Council honors their responsibilities as well. The Elder was silent for a long moment, and Jake could feel tension building in the clearing. Then the massive Kalthari moved forward, covering the distance between itself and Collins in 3 powerful strides. The Admiral held his ground as the Predator loomed over him, close enough that its breath moved his hair. "You offer things," the Elder said. "But what we need is not things. We need understanding. We need the galaxy to see us as we are, not as their fears painted us." "Then let us show them," Lisa said, stepping forward despite the security team's protests. "Let us document your culture, your history, your art and science. Let us share with the galaxy everything you are, and let Jake and the pack be the bridge between our peoples." The Elder turned to Lisa, and Jake saw something in its expression that looked like approval. The small thinker has wisdom. Yes, this is the path forward. The pack will remain with Jake who heard. They will grow strong in his company, learning human ways as he learns Kalthari ways. And when they are grown, they will travel the stars, showing the galaxy that we are not monsters to be feared. Scout chirped urgently, and the Elder responded with a gentle rumble. The Curious One asks if Jake who heard will truly stay with them as they grow. "Will you, human? Will you be pack? Truly and fully, even though you cannot connect as we do?" Jake looked at Scout, at Hunter, at Shadow. He thought about everything that had led to this moment. From that ruined station to this beautiful world. He thought about the responsibility he was accepting, the years of his life he would dedicate to this cause. "Yes," he said simply. "They're my family. I won't abandon them." The Elder's rumble was deep and resonant, and every Kalthari in the clearing joined in. The sound vibrated through Jake's chest, and he felt the pack pressing against him, their own voices adding to the chorus. "Then it is sealed," the Elder said. "Jake Morrison of Earth, you are recognized by the Connected as pack. Your essence will be shared among all Kalthari. Your name will be remembered for generations, and the bond between your species and ours begins with you." What followed was unlike any diplomatic ceremony in galactic history. There were no speeches, no formal documents, no staged photographs. Instead, the Kalthari invited the human delegation into the forest, to their communal grounds, to witness their way of life. Jake saw nurseries where cubs played under the watchful eyes of multiple adults, the young ones tumbling and play-fighting with an innocence that made the Council's fears seem absurd. He saw craftsmen working with tools and materials that showed a sophisticated understanding of technology, creating art that blended natural forms with abstract concepts in ways that challenged his perception. He saw families, groups of Kalthari who moved together with synchronized grace, their constant rumbling communication creating a backdrop of sound that felt alive. And he felt the pack's joy, their relief at being among their own kind again, even as they continued to stay close to him. As the planet's sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold, the Elder brought Jake to a hilltop overlooking a vast valley. Below, cities sprawled across the landscape, structures that grew from the ground as much as they were built upon it. Organic architecture that worked with nature rather than dominating it. "This is what the Council never saw," the Elder said. "We built all of this during the Cage years. We advanced, we grew, we became more than we were, but we did it in isolation, always wondering if we would ever be allowed to rejoin the greater galaxy." "You'll rejoin it now," Jake promised, "and not as subjects, as equals." The Elder's rumbling carried satisfaction. The small one who leads spoke truth. "Your species understands strength and compassion in equal measure. It is a rare combination." That night Jake slept under alien stars, the pack curled around him like a living barrier. Through their bond he could feel the dreams of thousands of Kalthari, a network of consciousness that stretched across the planet. He was a small node in that vast network now, human but accepted, different but family. In the weeks that followed, the Endeavor became a center of cultural exchange. Kalthari scholars came aboard to share their knowledge of biology, physics, and arts that had developed in isolation. Human specialists worked alongside them, finding common ground in mathematics and universal truths. The pack grew rapidly, spending their days learning from both their own kind and from Jake, becoming living bridges between two worlds. The Council's response was cautious but positive. The broadcast from the planet showed a species that was sophisticated, peaceful in its own way, and deeply misunderstood. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy, not military vessels but scientific and diplomatic missions, all eager to meet the Kalthari properly for the first time. Admiral Collins stood with Jake on the observation deck 6 months after their arrival, watching as a Kalthari vessel, newly built with human help, prepared for its first orbital flight. "They're going to reach the stars again," Collins said. "After 300 years of being told they were too dangerous, they're going to fly free." "They never stopped reaching," Jake replied. "We just weren't looking." The pack, now nearly full-grown and towering over Jake, rumbled their agreement. Scout, true to its name, had been selected as one of the pilots for the first mission. It would travel to Council Space with a mixed crew of Kalthari and human specialists. A delegation meant to open formal diplomatic relations. As the ship launched, its engines burning bright against the darkening sky, Jake felt a surge of emotion through the bond he shared with the pack. Not just joy, though there was plenty of that, but also determination, hope, and a fierce protective pride. The Kalthari were free, and humanity had been the key to their freedom. It was a bond that would reshape the galaxy, a friendship between predator and explorer that would echo through the ages. And it had all started because one human had looked at 3 scared cubs and seen not monsters, but children who needed help. Sometimes, Jake reflected, that's all it takes to change everything. Just one person willing to listen when everyone else has stopped trying. The pack rumbled their agreement, and in the valley below, thousands of Kalthari joined in, their collective voice rising to the stars they had finally reclaimed. The cage was open, the cubs had come home, and the universe would never be the same.